How much deposit do you really need to buy your first home? A common confusion around buying your first home is that you actually need a 20% deposit. This is false. There's actually many options out there which will allow you to purchase your first home using little to no savings. Many people believe that if you still cannot come up with a 20% deposit, you're not actually going to be eligible for a home loan. We find that the confusion around this usually consists of many people hear that lender's mortgage insurance is always applicable if you have less than a 20% deposit, plus parents and grandparents usually always purchase their property with a 20% deposit. So in reality, how much do you actually need? Well, this is going to depend on the options that you have available to you. For example, if you have parents who have quite a large amount of equity in their home, you can almost purchase with little to no savings at all. Other options we've also got available is we can always explore the first home loan deposit scheme. That's going to allow you to purchase with just a 5% deposit. Also, if you're eligible for the family guarantee scheme, then you may actually be able to purchase with a 2% deposit. The family guarantee scheme is for those who are actually single parents who have never purchased a property in the past. Keep in mind that if you do purchase under one of these schemes, that no money is actually handed to you. So we still need to be able to prove that you have actually saved that 5 or that 2% deposit. Or if it's a guarantor, again, you can come in with little to no savings. The need for some sort of deposit applies to everyone who is looking to purchase their first home. However, the amount in which you need is going to depend on what options we're actually going to be exploring. So what does this mean for borrowing power? Does your deposit actually help you increase your borrowing capacity? Well, yes and no. Reason why I say yes and no is because if you are able to come up with a 20% deposit, or for example, use some of the equity in mum and dad's home, so therefore the guarantor option, then usually your loan can actually be priced at an 80% loan to value ratio, meaning that the lender can actually give you a little bit more of a competitive interest rate. If you're going to be offered more of a competitive interest rate, then that then means that your overall servicing buffer is actually going to be a little bit lower. I also say no because at the end of the day, your borrowing capacity is still always going to be assessed on things like your income, your expenses, and your liabilities. The higher the deposit that you do have to put forward, however, can actually result in a slightly higher purchase price. So for example, if you're going to put forward a 20% deposit, that will actually give you a higher purchase price because you've got more cash to put towards the overall purchase price, as opposed to if you did have that 5% deposit. A few common mistakes that I do see first home buyers make is that they will save for their deposit. However, they forget to add in a buffer to cover for things like legals and, if applicable, stamp duty. For example, if you've decided that you would like to come in with a 5% deposit on a $600,000 property, you need $30,000 for the deposit alone. Let's say you don't have to pay stamp duty, you will still need about another $5,000 on top of that original $30,000 to make sure that you've got the funds there available to cover for things like bank fees, legal costs, that sort of stuff. Smart first home buyers don't just throw money at the deposit. What they will usually do is they plan strategically to minimize costs, reduce risk, and get into the market sooner. They take time to educate themselves on the real costs and also what schemes are actually going to be available for them to potentially be using. Buying your first home can feel overwhelming. However, it doesn't need to be. Just remember that you don't actually need to wait years to be able to save that 20% deposit. The government schemes are there to be used, so we may as well use them if you're able to. Majority of first home buyers who come across my desk are always using these schemes. I would say there's probably about 95% of first home buyers that will use the government schemes. Small deposits don't mean high risk if managed wisely. As long as repayments are affordable and you've got an emergency fund and you can still live your lifestyle, that's all that matters. Even a small deposit can get you into your first home safely. As long as you plan carefully and you budget realistically, at the end of the day, home buying is a marathon, it's not a sprint, and starting as soon as you possibly can is the best way to go. So if you would like to have a chat about what options are available to you, there's a link to my calendar below, and also please feel free to subscribe.